Paragraph 3, what have you highlighted as the key points?
Some countries' exchange rates came under pressure.
Right, love it. Exchange rates, don't you? Love it. Megan? Excellent. So what would that mean? Exchange rates coming under pressure. Do you think during a recession, what would that mean?
So mean that they're worth less
Right, and why would that be the case?
because people don't want to buy a currency when people from other countries, if they expect the economy to go downhill, they don't want to be holding them to that currency.
Yes, so they sell it, get rid of it, exactly. Interestingly, I'm sure it didn't pass you by that yesterday sterling shot up to its highest level in the last 3 months. And why was that? You've had your paragraph. Calm down. Go on.
I'm not too sure. They agree to trade.
Okay. So it's negotiations are back on again. Oh, the Japanese UK trade deal. Yeah. No, that's just this morning. It's finalised. Yeah.
Negotiations have been going on for a while.
Yeah.
It's like it's come to a stop.
Okay, let's not interrupt Megan here. She's in full flow. Okay, so you're saying here, Megan, let's just assume that we're talking about the UK. So we have the supply of sterling and the demand for sterling and the quantity. So what would be happening?
The supply is shifting to the right.
So, and that is because,
People are selling currency.
yeah, so lack of confidence. People think, right, we want to get out of this. They flee, don't they, into those safe haven currencies, and the biggest safe haven currency is?
The US dollar.
Right, thank you, good. And what about on the demand side as well?
That is shifting to the left.
Right, so it's sort of double whammy, isn't it? So you go in A to B, but then if less people want your currency, then you go on to D. So yeah, all the pressure's on the downside, basically. And what type of system is that? If you were to call, an exchange rate system, that's a, because it talks here about floaters, doesn't it? So what type's that? That's floating, that one, because that's determined by demand and supply. Okay, anything else in that paragraph?
Just the bit about floaters recording better performance than fixers.
And fixers, right. Now, why do you think, so let's not get into we'll not get to the fixers point just yet. But why do you think that the floater, so this system here, in what way could that maybe benefit an economy which is in dire straits? Which is in dire straits in terms of recession. So that movement, say from A down to C, E1 down to E2, that's called a what of the currency? A depreciation. So in what way could that be to a nation's advantage, particularly a country, say, like Germany? So what does Germany do a lot of? How do they earn most of a very substantial proportion of their GDP is earned via exports, thank you, right? So
The more people want to buy the exports, the cheaper.
exactly. So the depreciation will result in export prices falling, yep, leading to, hopefully, from their point of view, an increase in the demand for exports. Okay, now if I was to press you then about a fixed exchange rate system and maybe a diagram that you might be familiar with for a fixed exchange rate. Better performance than the fixers. And you can use, if it's of any help, you can use the example that we talked about when we discussed the exchange rate mechanism and that fix between a certain couple of points.
Is the supply fixed?
No. Okay, we can open this one up to anyone else who'd like to chip in. Close. So when we looked at exchange rate mechanism way back, so you got the supply of the currency, the demand for the currency, but then within that you have a upper band and you have a lower band. So this would be your UC, your upper ceiling, and your LF, which is the lower floor. And your job, if you will, as the governor of the central bank, would be to try and keep the currency within that set limit. So you don't want to shoot out the top and you don't want to fall through the floor either. But it does happen, which is exactly what happened to the UK on Black Wednesday and the exchange rate mechanism. So, Megan, can you tell me one way in which we might shoot beneath the lower floor? So what could cause the equilibrium to move below the lower floor?
An increase in
Right. So just what you've talked about, people selling it off. So you go from A to B. But you, as the central bank, your job is to make sure that if that has happened, you must fix it ASAP. So what are you going to do as the governor of the central bank? What would your kind of immediate, there's kind of three things you could probably do to prop it back up again.
Would you like take money out by like buying bonds and stuff, like take money out of the economy?
So I wouldn't get into kind of using bonds. Very straightforward thing to make it more attractive for foreigners to have to be holding your currency. I'd quite like to, having read the FT this morning, I'd quite like to be holding the Turkish lira. Any reason why? I'd like to have my savings in Turkish lira at the minute. Go on. Right, the interest rate there at the minute is 13.25%. What is it in the UK at the minute?
0.1.
0.1. Right. So what would be the first thing that you could do as a central bank governor?
Increase the base rate.
Bang the base rate up and hope to stimulate. Okay, so people will want your currency, so you hope to stimulate.
Like demand.
Exactly. And shift
Demand right.
back within the boundaries again. Exactly. So you'd hope that if you did that, you might end up at D2, and then you're back here, you're back at point C. So you're back within the framework again. So one policy response, you could say, right, I'm going to increase the interest rate. What would a second one be, Megan? So what do central banks hold? They hold our currency, but they also hold stocks of other currencies. So if you were the governor of the Bank of England, and we have lots of dollars, you could use the dollars to buy
More of your
more sterling. In effect, raising the demand. Yeah. So you could use your holdings of foreign currency to buy your own currency, and that would prop it up. Just the same thing. I domestic currency with foreign currency. And then what else is in the vaults at the Bank of England, Megan? Don't know if you've ever been on a tour around it, have you?
gold.
Right. So what could you do with that?
You could sell the gold
And buy?
and buy your own currency.
Exactly. Yeah. So you could use up your gold reserves. Yeah. Spend gold reserves.
Isn't that what gold is valued?
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Good knowledge, Megan, of exchange rate systems. Floating, fixed. How would you describe the euro? Right, okay, let's move on to the next paragraph then.